Chapter 7. This is so awesome, Maria said. She and Lizzie were standing in the stable, putting Sally's saddle on again. Can't believe your parents let you sign up for riding lessons. They said I deserve it because I've been working so hard with Rascal, Lizzie said. She patted Sally's neck and the old mare nickered softly. Lizzie was happy to be back in the stable. He's learning to behave? Maria asked as she tugged on the stirrup. Not really, Lizzie admitted. Mom gave me and Charles one more week to try to teach him indoor manners. After that, she said we'll have to give him to the animal shelter and hope they can find a home. Maria shook her head. That wouldn't be good, she said. You give him a lot more attention, but you'll figure something out, I'm sure of it. You're so great with dogs. I was great with dogs, Lizzie said, but this one, I don't know. Well, forget about Rascal for a little while, Maria said. Let's think about the horses instead. Sounds good, said Lizzie. Sally's just about ready for you to ride, Maria said. Why don't you grab my extra helmet from the tack room while I tack up Major? Major was Maria's favorite horse, shiny chestnut with a white star on his forehead. After she got the helmet, Lizzie wandered down the stable's aisles, waiting for Maria. She said hello to some of the horses she had met the other day, Treasure, Jasper, Willie. She even patted Minx, the beautiful Palomino. But she stayed away from Jet, the black horse, that Maria had called skittish. Lizzie wasn't sure what that meant, but it might have something to do with his kicking or biting. Lizzie was getting used to horses. She wasn't nearly as scared of them as she had been, but she still thought it was best to be careful. Then Lizzie looked down at the last stall and caught a glimpse of a glossy brown horse. It had a big, noble head and soft, dark eyes that met Lizzie with curiosity. Wow, Lizzie said. She didn't know much about horses, but she could tell at a glance that this one was special. She started walking down towards the stall. The horse tossed its head and whinnied as she approached. She stopped for a moment, but then she couldn't resist moving closer. There was a sudden booming noise. Lizzie stopped in her tracks. What was that? Lizzie, stop! Maria called from the other end of the aisle. Don't go any closer. Lizzie backed up a few steps, keeping her eye on the horse, who was now tossing his head again. The whites of his eyes were showing, and his ears were pointed back. Lizzie knew that when a dog's ears looked like that, it was often scared or mad. That was probably true for horses, too. Maria ran up to Lizzie. That's Sir Galahad, she said. Isn't he gorgeous? Lizzie nodded. He was the most beautiful horse she had ever seen. His glossy brown coat was gleaming, and his black mane and tail were long and silky. Is he dangerous? She asked. Maria shook her head. No, he's just cranky. That noise you heard? He was kicking the sides of the stall. Lizzie was glad she wasn't kicking her. Sir Galahad was a big horse. He seemed twice as big as Sally. Why was he kicking? He's just been a big old grouch lately, Maria said. He's Kathy's horse. He's an amazing jumper. She used to show him off all the time, and now he's so moody that she doesn't take him to horse shows. I think he's bored. I think that makes him grouchier. You're probably right, someone said. It was Kathy joining them near Sir Galahad's stall. She walked right up to the big horse and rubbed his nose. He snorted but didn't move away. Silly guy, she said. Why can't you be nice like you used to be? Lizzie sighed. It's so hard to get animals to do what you want them to do, she said. Kathy gave her a serious, curious look. That's definitely true, she said. But what animal are you having trouble with? Not Sally. She's a star. No, Lizzie said, it's this puppy my family's fostering. She told Kathy a little bit about Rascal. Kathy listened and nodded. My husband Wayne and I used to have a Jack Russell, she said. Pepper. He was kind of a stable mascot. Do you know that you can often find Jack Russells in stables? They seem to get along well with horses. Anyways, Pepper died 6 months ago. I still miss him like crazy, the little devil. She laughed. Those dogs are so energetic, it makes them hard to train, even though they're so smart. That made Lizzie feel better. Kathy thought for a moment. Would you like to bring your little guy here next time? Maybe if I met him, I could help him with some of the training ideas. Really? Lizzie asked. She had already started to have another of her great ideas. Maybe Kathy would want to adopt Rascal. He could live at the stable, with plenty of room to run and play, and get lots of attention too. Lizzie could not imagine a better home for a little pup. That would be awesome. Are you sure? Kathy nodded. I know it will make me sad to see a Jack Russell. Wayne and I already decided if we ever get another dog, it will be a different breed. We could never replace Pepper, but still, it sounds like you could use some help with this little rascal. I definitely can, Lizzie said. Her great idea had not lasted very long. It sounded like Rascal would not find a home at this stable, but it would still be fun to take him there. Thanks. Now Kathy said, I think someone is waiting for you. She pointed down the aisle to where Sally stood patiently. Ready for your lesson? Chapter 8. When Lizzie got home from the stable, she found Charles and her mom in the kitchen. She was starving. Riding definitely gave her an appetite. What's for supper? She asked. She bent down to pat Rascal, who was whining and barking. He was always so happy to see her. That felt good. When she straightened up, she saw the frown on her mother's face, and Charles had his finger over his lips, giving her shh sign. The bean copied Charles, shushing Lizzie noisily. Uh-oh. Well, said Mom, we're going to have meatloaf. She folded her arms and glared down at Rascal. But when I was upstairs looking at the recipes on the computer, somebody found out that he could jump high enough to reach the hamburger on the counter. Rascal stopped bouncing for a second and sat down, looking up at them. Why did everybody look mad? Weren't they proud of his new trick? How many dogs could jump that high? He was very, very good at jumper, even if he did say so himself. And now that he had discovered the countertops, life in the kitchen wasn't going to be barely as boring. Lizzie shook her head at Rascal. He stared up at her with his big black button eyes gleaming and stubby tail wagging. How could such a naughty dog be so cute? What are we going to do with you? She asked. We're going to find him a home. That's what Mom said. But Mom, Charles said, who will take him if he acts this way? Now it was Lizzie's turn to give her brother the sign. He was just upset because meatloaf was one of his favorite dinners. We'll keep working on the training, she promised her Mom. Great, said Mom, but you need help, so I've signed up for private lessons with Jamie. She's coming over tonight. Here? Lizzie was surprised. She didn't know that dog trainers made house calls. She says it's important for the whole family to learn how to train the Rascal, Mom said. She wants us all here. Mom didn't look too excited about the lesson. Dad liked the idea, though. It'll be fun, he said when he got home from 2 pizzas he picked up for dinner. Mom had obviously called to tell him about Rascal and the hamburger meat. They had barely finished eating when the doorbell rang. Rascal started boinging and barking. His high-pitched bark. The bean put down his pizza crust and barked along. Mom put her hands over her ears. Lizzie ran to the door. Hi, Jamie, she said as she opened it. Hi, Lizzie, Jamie answered. Tell you what, let's try this again. I'll go out and wait a minute, then ring the bell on the doorbell. If Rascal starts barking, he will, Lizzie said. When Rascal starts barking, Jamie said with a smile, try throwing this down near his feet. Don't hit him with it, and make sure he can't really tell where it's coming from. She handed Lizzie a soda can with pennies in it and the top taped shut. I've used this one before, Lizzie said, when we were testing Shadow, the dog who was learning to be a guide dog. We tossed a penny can near the Shadow to see if it would scare him. It didn't. Great, Jamie said. Well, this time, the penny can is just supposed to give Rascal something else to think about. If he stops barking because he's surprised or curious, you can praise him and give him a treat. Let's try it, said Lizzie. She shut the door on Jamie and went back to the kitchen. Climbing over the baby gates, she quickly explained the plan to the rest of the family. Then she stood near Rascal until the doorbell rang. When it did, Rascal started barking. Lizzie threw the can. Hey, what was that? Rascal heard the jangly noise and wondered where it came from. But he was too busy barking to stop to find out now. After all, he had a job to do. He had to let his people know that someone was at the door. Well, that didn't work so well, Jamie admitted, when Lizzie answered the door again. Don't worry, we'll try some other things. Rascal was still barking as Lizzie and Jamie came to the kitchen. Rascal, Dad yelled, cut it out. Dad was not usually a yeller, but everyone was tired of Rascal's barking. I know it's frustrating, Jamie said, but you have to try not to yell at him. Try to think like a dog. If he hears you yelling, he thinks you're just barking too. He'll want to bark along. But what else can we do, Mom asked, taking her hands off her ears to hear Jamie's answer. Ignore him, Jamie suggested. Wait until he winds down, then praise him. They ignored Rascal. They ignored him some more. He just kept barking and boinging. Or, Jamie said finally, you could try spraying him with a little water or mixed with vinegar. She pulled the spray bottle out of her bag and sprayed Rascal when he wasn't looking. Hey, what was that? It didn't usually rain indoors. Rascal twirled around in a circle, trying to figure out where the water was coming from. The barking stopped. Ah, said Mom. Finally, said Dad. Good dog, Jamie said to Rascal, giving him a biscuit. Now she said, maybe we can get some training done. Jamie stayed for over an hour working with Rascal and the Petersons. Rascal tried to pay attention. He really did. But it was boring to sit and even more boring to stay. Twirling and jumping were so much more fun. Thanks for coming, Mum said, when the exhausted Peterson said good night to Jamie. Jamie sighed. You're welcome. I wish I could be more help. The truth is, Rascal may never be a great house pet. Charles and Lizzie looked at each other. I'll make some phone calls, Jamie went on. I know a lady who takes dogs on her farm. Maybe Rascal would stay with her for a while. The dogs don't get a lot of attention, but at least they would have a place to live. Mum and Dad nodded, but Charles and Lizzie shook their heads. The farm part sounded good, but Rascal loved people and needed attention. They'd have to keep trying to find him the right home, and they didn't have much time left.